Sure, I'm Jon Gelman. I'm president of Hawaii Marine Animal Response. Our primary responsibility for monk seals is to be the first responders when a monk seal is sighted on the islands of Oahu and Molokai. That response entails dispatching to the scene, assessing the animal, verifying the species, verifying that the animal is not stranded versus hauled out under its own power, do an identification of the seal, and throughout all this time also engaging with the public and educating the public as to the species. A little over 100 volunteers. We have 6 staff members and currently 3 interns. We have different parts of the organization. We have a response team portion of the organization. We also have an education team, and we also have an outreach team, and we also have a hotline team. So there's various roles for volunteers to handle within the organization. But most of the volunteers are involved in beach response, and that's the side of the organization that actually rolls out to a location and engages with the public, educates the public, makes sure this seal is doing okay, assessing, etc., identifying the seal, etc. We're busy all year long. Our average volunteer workload is about 30 hours a day. So across the islands, our volunteers are engaged doing something about 30 hours each day of the week. So it could be in January, it could be in December, it could be in March, it really doesn't matter. However, of course, when we have pups on the ground, there is a little more heightened activity, so we do ramp up additional volunteer activity then. Stage equipment, be ready. We don't always know where the animal is going to give birth. Like in this particular case at Kaimana Beach, we had no idea that she was going to give birth here. But being prepared, having teams ready to go, having teams trained, having all the supplies ready, gets us to be able to respond quicker. During training, we have a list of about 45 common, frequently asked questions, and the volunteers learn the questions and the answers because through experience we've learned that most questions we're going to get fall in that group of 45 questions. Everything from how long do they live, what do they eat, how long are they pregnant, how many pups do they give birth to, how long does the pup stay with the mom. There's a common set of questions, and once you get those down and you know the answers to those questions, then you can expand from there. But most of the questions we get asked are the same questions that are in that 45 number. With a mom and pup, we have a situation that can be very dangerous because the mom is going to be defensive and protect the pup. Normally, if you just have a seal that's hauled out on the beach and it's resting, they're normally very docile animals. So we don't have that level of importance, that level of potential danger that exists with a mom and pup. So that's the big difference between the different types of responses. Whether it's a mom and a pup or just a normal quote-unquote seal on the beach, our responsibility is to try to remove the potential of what's called a take. And a take can be as little as a disturbance. So if the animal is disturbed and it changes its natural behavior, that is considered a take. And one of our roles is to try to prevent that from occurring. One of the ways to do that is to set up a perimeter around the animal if we think there's enough traffic to warrant. I think one of the misconceptions that we deal with is that people may think that is a legal, enforceable perimeter around the animal, and it really is not. It's meant as a guideline, it's meant as a visual reference so that people know at this point, this is a place where a disturbance most likely will not occur. Beyond this point, a disturbance could occur. So it's really mostly a demarcation point that allows people a visual reference point as to where we're recommending they stay on the beach to view the animal responsibly. It is also a place for us to establish our presence so that when people approach the area, they can see us, they see our shirts, they see who we are, and we can actually engage with them at that location. It's not closed. This is a demarcation line for people to understand at which point we think a disturbance could occur. This is going to stay as long as the mom and pup continue to return to this area. We don't have any way of knowing when that's going to stop. They have been venturing out down the beach the last few days, but they continue to return to this area. So as long as there's the potential for them to continue to return here, we're going to keep this here. Once the returns stop and they either take up a location other than this or they disappear from the area, then we can take down the perimeter. There are 2 primary federal statutes that protect the animals. That's the Marine Mammal Protection Act and the Endangered Species Act. Both of those federal statutes have similar rules and regulations, but for the purposes of this conversation about an animal on the beach, the biggest thing that the laws protect is against a take, quote unquote, a take. And a take, again, can be everything from killing the animal, wounding the animal, injuring the animal, or disturbing or harassing the animal. And that's what the animals are protected from. Our job on the beach is to monitor the activity and to try to keep that kind of illegal activity from occurring. But if it does occur, our job is to document that and deliver that information to the appropriate authorities. So in our cooperative agreement with NOAA, part of our responsibility is to deliver this type of law enforcement information to the appropriate bodies. NOAA themselves has an Office of Law Enforcement, and they are the ones who would investigate the situation that we bring to their attention. They would investigate, and if they determine that a take did occur or likely did occur, they'll be the ones to decide to take the case and go to trial. We are trained observers. We know what to look for. We know how to document any kind of potential illegal behavior, and to document it in sufficient clarity and sufficient detail so an action can be taken. And so when something does occur or could occur, we're going to document that and deliver that information to the authorities. There is no law or regulation specifying a particular distance from a Hawaiian monk seal. The issue is disturbance. The issue is harassment. The issue is changing their natural behavior. So if you were to change the seal's natural behavior and you were 1 foot from the seal, that could be a violation of the law. If you were 100 feet from the seal and you were throwing something at the seal and causing a disturbance or changing its natural behavior, that also could be a possible violation of the law. In a situation with a mom and pup, we try to stay at least 100 to 150 feet away from the animal. In this particular case at Kaimana Beach, we're about 200 feet from where they were staying. Now, of course, they're ranging around the beach and away from this area. But for us, we think that about 150 to 200 feet in a congested, populated area like this is a good distance. In other parts of the island where things may be more remote and less human activity, we could make it something a little smaller. One of the key messages is, and you've seen some of the questions, why are people so close? Why are those boats so close? Why can't you keep those boats away? It's not a question of how close they are. It's a question is, are they causing a disturbance? Right? So if you watch Rocky and the pup over the last few days when they're over there, right? You've got people walking pretty close to, but they're not reacting.
Right.
There's no disturbance. There's no take. There's no violation of the law. Now, people may feel uncomfortable about it because they may feel like people are too close. But we need to strip away the emotion around this and think about what really is important for the animals. And it's if there's no disturbance, there's no disturbance. So you'll get people to say the same things. That's a really key point, because what happens is, especially a mom and pup, it brings out a lot of emotion, and it brings out this protection emotion. I want to protect the animals, and they're wild animals. They don't really need our protection. They've been here in the Pacific for millions of years, evolving, giving birth, raising their pups. It's more about disturbance, and that's the message. And coexistence. We really want to coexist with the animals. We've got to get there, because these animals, the population is increasing, and there are more and more of them. These kinds of situations, like a pup being born on Waikiki Beach, could potentially happen again, over and over again. And we've got to foster a culture of coexistence. I think our role is to continue to engage and educate, and continue to communicate the message, which is that individual may not have caused a disturbance, but you may, or worse. And our job is to remind people of that, continue to message that, and try to remove those potentials. But sometimes you really can't eliminate completely the potential of human interaction, especially on some of these busy beaches. So we do the best we can. We try to create as large a perimeter as the environment will allow, and the rest of it is engagement and education. We care about preservation and conservation of not just Hawaiian monk seals, but many marine species. And if we can play a role in doing that by educating and providing outreach and creating perimeters when necessary, that's our little piece giving back to a species that has come back from the brink of extinction and is now slowly growing. The population is slowly growing, so we feel like we're playing an important role. And I think that's the motivation for most of the people in the organization. To do this job well, you have to have a thick skin. There are 99.9% of the people we engage with on the beach are great. They're respectful, they want to learn about the animals. There's always going to be that small percentage of people that are a little difficult, and you have to have a thick enough skin to just let that roll off your back. There's always the obvious potential to name the pup for a geographic place. Because we're here on Kaimana Beach, I've heard some people talking about calling the animal Kaimana. Our policy is to try to engage with the Native Hawaiian community and to engage with local cultural practitioners and to let them take the role of gifting a name to the animal, giving the animal its name and legacy. And so we're in communication with cultural practitioners now, and we expect to be able to announce a formal name very shortly.